There is a fixation on the shopping list, that's for sure. The compromises are starting to happen.
Lives happen. People go through life stages not based on the seasons. So it makes sense that people sell when it is the right time for them.
There's that huge challenge of aligning the buying with the selling, which is a huge, huge barrier.
Buying a moving house is highly personal and also sometimes a bit emotional. There's many elements to consider and each of them is going to be unique to your situation. But regardless of your circumstances, there are some factors within the property market that influence when is the best time to buy and subsequently move. In partnership with Belong Internet, I'm here with Serge Petrichenko, Head of Market Research at REA Group, and Lana Samuels from White Fox Real Estate, who has spent 7 years advising both buyers and sellers on when to transact property. Thanks so much for coming on the show today. It is a great topic considering it's a conundrum that many Aussies face. When is the best time to buy a property? Lana, many buyers do ask themselves questions like, do I wait for spring selling season? Do I try to get in the winter time and beat the rush? Or do I even hang out and buy in the summer? Is there a better time to snag your dream home?
It is a great question that's asked every single day. I always say to my buyers and my sellers, you go when you're ready to go. So I always find that there's only 5 reasons why people actually transact in property. First one being financial gain, financial loss. The second, death, relocation and marriage. And those 5 things happen every single day, whether there's a pandemic, whether there's rising interest rates. It's a constantly moving space that we're in. So to be prepared is the most important part. The timing, you've got to be ready to go. But spring typically is the busiest time of the year. We always find that there is more stock on the market. There's usually a better energy within the space as well. And that's a great time to be looking to sell. But as a buyer, you do need to be mindful that you are going to have that competition in that spring period. I always tend to find that autumn as a buyer is a really nice time to be buying because you're feeling that there is a cooler demand on the property market. There's also usually less buyers out there and there could be that overflow from that spring period coming into play. So if you are in a position to go, I always say that autumn is a really great time. Winter's hit and miss. Usually there's less stock on the market. There's also less competition in that winter space. But that summer period as well, it's a bit of a funny time, that December to February period. There's a lot of school holidays happening. People are away. Again, lower stock levels on the market and there is that overflow usually that comes into play, which could be a good position to be buying in because usually the vendors are ready to get a deal done.
Funny that you say about like that December to February period, because if we have a look at stock that has come to market, buyers actually had a great time in January. You know, our realestate.com.au listings grew by 2.7% year on year in January, which is actually the highest listings volumes in that month for 7 years.
That's really interesting as well because we had a bit of a stop-start in that November, December period. And we found there were a lot of buyers that were sitting on their hands at the end of last year and having that summer break. It's that new cycle of buyers coming into the market that are ready to go and ready to really snag that opportunity. So I'm not surprised by that stat.
Well, our 2025 Property Market Outlook report shows that buyers now have more choice than what they have in the past 12 years, which is great if you're out there being a buyer. But Serge, from a data point of view, buyers do tend to have increase in their search activity at different times of the year based on stock coming onto the market. Is autumn and spring selling season, do you think it's dead?
If you look at the data, there are people searching for homes all year round. I had a look. There are some peaks and dips. In terms of the dips, it's normally around that Christmas period, but that's also because there are less listings coming up. In terms of the peaks, it's consistent, but there are some little peaks. The first one is January, like we're talking about. We just had a record high in terms of buyers on realestate.com.au, 12.4 million visitors in January, which is great. There's also a bit of a peak around May, which is the autumn period, and then spring around October. But again, that's also when more listings come out there. What the data is showing is really, though, apart from the Christmas period, the market doesn't really slow down. There are people that are always searching for their next property or investment.
Well, it's to Lana's point before, lives happen. People go through life stages not based on the seasons. So it makes sense that people sell when it is the right time for them. and buy, mind you. Our annual Property Seeker survey, it provided some great insights into the buying process and what people are looking for in a home. Are there any insights into why the process can take longer than what it has before, but also where and when?
What we found in the Seeker study is everyone's got their list of critical features. And it starts with the essentials. They want to have enough bedrooms, they want a decent garage, natural light, enough bathrooms. But then as you start going up in the premium market, that's when we start looking at walk-in wardrobes, the butler's pantry, swimming pool. So people have these long lists. Now, in terms of why is it taking longer, which is what we're finding, is affordability. People have this long checklist, but then they can't find something in their price range. And also what we're seeing is people looking in outer areas. So they're expanding their search areas. They want to find a place that ticks a lot of the boxes but won't break the bank. And so one thing we're seeing is instead of in the past there was kind of this fear of missing out, the FOMO, there's now fear of better options. And so that makes people a bit more cautious and they're waiting. And so Lana mentioned November, December, people are kind of waiting. That's like what's coming out in January and then people coming out. So we're definitely seeing some of that. And according to the movers research as well, what we found is that every stage of the moving journey is taking longer. So that's finding a property, packing boxes and then getting settled in.
I think that goes to show that people just need to work out what they're willing to compromise on, what they're not, what their absolute non-negotiables are, and then kind of begin that search. What are some of the other barriers that you're finding are taking people longer to get into their home? Like affordability, that's a no-brainer. We've covered that. Is it things like a barrier might be that, no, they don't want to look outside of their desired suburb. They want what they want and they'll wait until they get it. Is another barrier simply, must have 2 bathrooms or must have 3 bathrooms and then they can only find one that has 1.5?
It's definitely the box ticking exercise and the shopping list needs to be to the highest level. I always tend to say if you can find 7 out of 10, that's a really strong position to be in. Security's been a really big factor for our buyers in the market space at the moment. They are really conscious with the crime rate out at the moment and how, it's so apparent that it is spreading across Melbourne at the moment. Everyone's on edge. They are really looking for the double garage or off-street parking. That security in-house system is important. There is a long list of things that they are, really honing in on. But there is definitely a trend of buyers wanting that turnkey proposition we're finding. They are very nervous about doing build or renovations at the moment because of cost of build. So that is taking a little bit longer. And we haven't had a huge amount of supply in the last 6 to 12 months, really, based on what's happened in the last few years out there. So they're definitely waiting for the right opportunities and that is taking a lot longer than usual, we're finding.
Serge, what's coming through in the research in this space? What are the barriers holding people back from moving?
I mean, for buyers, obviously, it's finding the right place with your affordability. The rental market's also not helping. It's very tight and in competitive places, they're worried, especially for sellers, where am I going to live? Because it is hard to get a rental, sometimes winning the lottery. But I think the big one is you have a look at sellers. Sellers, for them, it's also market uncertainty. They're kind of holding off sometimes. They're like, will the rate decrease later? Do I wait and then I'll get a better price later?
Yeah.
And then if you think about it, a lot of sellers are buyers too. So then there's that huge challenge of aligning the buying with the selling, which is a huge, huge barrier. But I think overall the other part is just security, Lana said, but also security in terms of where you're going to live. And
security of schools and securities of being in the right location with the right transport. All of those factors are so important. And, buyers are sitting in the upper position at the moment. Right now in the market, if you're a cashed up buyer and you're ready to pounce, you're definitely going to have that negotiation power right now.
I think buyers in different stages of life are, of course, their priorities are different and they are looking for different things in a property purchase. Serge, did the Movers research provide any insights into what exactly these different demographics are looking for?
The information that everyone looks for now is more price transparency and sold history. And luckily that's more accessible, so that helps out a lot of people. But we look at different buying groups, that's where there's some differences. So First home buyers, for them, location is more important. So they're looking at where's the public transport and then also where are the local amenities. So the cafes, restaurants, it's really about convenience and lifestyle. That's the big theme emerging. With upgraders, that's when it's a lot more. Like they're looking for a lot more information. They want to know, what year was this property built? Can we get a building inspection? What's the land size? What are the schools in the area and the school zones? Like there's a lot there. They've obviously their budgets are a little bit bigger, but they're also their demands are larger. And we did find with upgraders, they've got the most number of critical features on in terms of the boxes that they're trying to, a lot more than first home buyers, downsizers. So bigger budgets but bigger demands.
Lana, does this marry up with the conversations you're having with your demographic that you're dealing with in your patch?
There is a fixation on the shopping list, that's for sure. The compromises are starting to happen. Location is the biggest driving factor we're finding at the moment in terms of the school zones and really trying to make that move to get into the right position. But it's really about the longevity of the property we're finding at the moment. You know, there's a lot of buyers that want to buy and move and change in 2 years' time. They're seeing that capital growth for the suburbs. They're really doing their research and they're wanting a home usually at the moment where they can really add value as well and make that return. So the scope has started to change, but definitely having the right position is key and making sure that really works within their lifestyle. The location to amenities is highly important, but they also want to have that longevity in that next purchase of, am I going to make money here and can my family evolve here and can we grow into the home? No one wants to buy and think that they may need to move again in the next 2 years. Stamp duty, the headaches and all the moving parts that come along with that. They're definitely sticking to their guns at the moment in terms of what they like.
But I guess because the market is constrained, like in terms of stock, what are your tips, Lana, to buyers when it comes to compromise? Do you tell people that perhaps buying a home they can renovate is the answer? Like you mentioned, growing into the home, part of growing might be a renovation. Or do you advise people to look for the lifestyle they want first, then find a home that allows them to live that?
I always believe that you've got to buy in the right location. That's first and foremost for me personally. A home that you can really add your stamp to. For me, I love a period home. My husband and I buy and sell period homes every few years, something that I can add value to. But you've got to find a floor plan that's also conducive to the way that you and your family live. So location is imperative, especially from a longevity perspective, making sure that the home fits within your lifestyle. You know, you don't want to be buying a property and finding that you're having to do too much travel and it's inconvenient for you and the family. So making sure that you're really fine-tuning down the locations that work within the flow of the family and your lifestyle. And then from there, just having those positions of what are the non-negotiables and what are we really looking for the next step and making sure that that unlocks the right opportunity for you.
But a lot of that is going to depend on market conditions. So what should a buyer look for in a market condition? We hear terms like hot market and cold market. What do these mean?
So a hot market is a market where there's strong confidence. There's usually stronger stock levels on the market, which also means there's usually higher competition. And that is driven by market conditions as well. So there might be lower interest rates out there. A cold market refers to a market where there is low confidence out there. Again, it's driven by the economic factors out in the world. It could be high interest rates, lower volume, and less stock available on the market. So usually that is when you'll see a decrease in sale prices and longer days on market as well.
So from a buyer's perspective, you'd probably be wanting a hot market then, right?
Yes and no. So a hot market is great because there's definitely more opportunity out there.
There's
and it's
more
like a candy
people.
shop, but guess what? There is going to be higher competition at the same time. So the cooler markets are usually the time that you do want to be transacting in. There is going to be less volume, but there is going to be less competition in that space as well. And if you are prepared and you're ready to negotiate and you've got all your ducks in a row, you're usually going to be in a position of power to negotiate the right deal.
Well, Serge, the REA Movers research found that convenience really is king when it comes to buying and moving. So basically people want things to be as stress-free and easy as possible, if that even is possible when you're moving. But Belong Internet found some very similar data in their own research that showed 23.6% of people prioritised the ease of moving and not needing to spend too much time and energy on it. Especially true when it comes to signing up to utilities and services like internet. Can you explain to us a little bit more about what the research shows in this space? How much of a factor does convenience play in someone's property purchase and subsequent move?
Convenience is huge. I think one clear indicator is the rise in interest in buyer's agents. I know White Fox has a buyer's agents arm.
Yep.
And for time-poor Australians, hiring a buyer's agent means someone else is doing a lot of the groundwork. So they're doing the research, they're going to inspections, they're doing the negotiations, also maybe even the auction bidding. So it's all about convenience and making things easy. Now, when it comes to the research and moving, convenience is obviously just as important as well.
Yeah.
Think about all the logistics. Think about switching your internet, your electricity, your home insurance. It's a lot. And so our research has shown 1 in 3 people are making that switch before they make the move. But there's a lot of people that they're juggling so much that they're also making that switch after they've made the move as well. So, you know, any provider that can make things easy for people that are moving is a huge win.
And when we talk about easy, what we're talking about is things like the ease of the setup. It's things like crystal clear communication. It's things like fast speeds. It's all of that stuff that we found, and Belong also found in their research, that's what is most important to people when they're moving and signing up and looking for these providers.
I think the other point is another big shift is more people are working from home.
Yeah.
And so now convenience is more important than ever. Like you don't have time to wait for your home office to get set up. It needs to be ready to go. You need to have everything working from day one. Otherwise, it would be really frustrating.
I think working is the key word there, because no one wants to be on a work meeting and their internet's cutting out.
Nothing worse.
Exactly.
And COVID taught us that is one of the most important things.
Absolutely. Well, the world is digital.
Yeah.
But Lana, over the years, what's been the sentiment amongst buyers when it comes to convenience? Are people more interested in an easy purchase as opposed to a property that might have some hoops to jump through? There's like heavy negotiation with the vendor. What's the deal there?
I think buyers just don't want to play games anymore, and having that convenience of the deal and understanding the position of the vendor as clearly as possible and understanding the process right now is really important. You know, there's a lot of properties that aren't selling at auction right now. The clearance rates are low. If it is a private sale or an EOI process, they want to know exactly how it's being run so that they're in a position to press go. The convenience is imperative for buyers. They're moving quickly, and if they're making the decision, they want to make sure that everything is lined up. They've had their building inspections, they've had all their due diligence done, the contract reviews, and making sure that the entire process from start to finish is just crystal clear and really easy and smooth sailing.
What about that settlement period though? Like the standard settlement period is 12 weeks, 90 days.
Yeah.
Is this shifting with
Definitely
buyers?
shifting. So we're finding with majority of our deals that the settlement period is significantly longer. There's a lot of buyers out there that are going out and purchasing prior to selling, and they want to know where they're going and they want to secure that property before they put their home on the market. No one wants to be in limbo, especially with the crisis of the rental market at the moment. There is that nervousness around the settlement period,
So
and
what are you
people want the
seeing?
time. So we're seeing anywhere up to 12 months. We did a 12-month settlement last week, and they wanted that time or early by mutual agreement to give them the ability to get their home ready, put on the market, and have the time to do the works that they need to do to prepare for sale. But it has blown out. 12 months is extreme, and it's not a usual settlement period, but they are coming to the table once in a while. But we're seeing anywhere up to 6 months for buyers wanting to have that security that they've got enough time to make sure that they hit the right level and they're getting the most out of the market. So it can be anywhere between 4 to 6 months at the moment. It's really interesting to see.
Lana, best piece of advice for buyers around when to buy?
The market is definitely swinging in a buyer's favour right now.
Yeah.
You buy when you find the right home. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to tick every single box.
Yeah, I
but
agree.
you need to really keep an eye on what the trends have been and listen to the media, you know, and take what you can out of that space. But you need to jump when you find the right home. You always get that gut feel when you walk into a property. And if it ticks 7 out of the 10 and it makes sense, make the move.
Yeah.
Don't have any regrets.
I agree. But Serge, from all the research that you do, what's the number one piece of advice for a property seeker?
Be strategic and be prepared. Buying a home can be overwhelming, and with all the criteria and emotions involved, it can get a bit much. So getting clear on what you want from the start, I think, is really important. Which suburbs do you want to buy? What are the non-negotiables that you and often your partner can agree on? And I think the other one is just being surrounded by a really good support team. So the local agents, the broker, the legal experts. So when you do find the right place, you're ready to make your move.
Well, I think that's great advice from both of you. Look, I really enjoyed our chat today. I hope you've enjoyed coming on.
Loved it. Thank you so
Alice.
much.
Thanks, Lana.
In partnership with Belong Internet, thank you for joining me on Real Talk. For your weekly fix, please follow wherever you listen to your podcasts and tune in next time for more real questions, news and insights on the topics that matter most from realestate.com.au, Australia's #1 address in property. All information provided is general advice and opinion based on current market conditions. These opinions should not be treated as investment advice. Always obtain advice based on your individual circumstances.
Real Talk acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, air and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present.